Bird on Bears fans, question on the table today. Did the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles handle the Roquan Smith situation correctly? Let's talk about it, starting now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago Bears daily. It's the only channel talking Bears out Bears talk, so make sure that you're getting tuned with us. And by the way, if you're here right now and you haven't dropped a bear down in the comments, what are you doing? Let's get to the question on the table, man. Here's the thing. Roquan Smith is back with the Chicago Bears. He is going to play out the final season of his deal at a minimum in a Bears jersey. But the question here is, did the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles handle this situation correctly? Did they do what's in the best interest of the Chicago Bears for the long term, right? Because you're thinking about it, right? You're kind of pissing off a player who's a top linebacker in the NFL. He leads the NFL in a ton of categories, going as far as one of the best tacklers in the NFL, one of the best guys in coverage in the NFL. When you're looking at a guy like Roquan Smith, and of course, more than likely a ton of abilities that we'll see unlocked this season in a 4-3. So did the Bears make the right decision and move correctly when dealing with the Roquan Smith situation? And it's interesting, right? Because you heard Ryan Poles basically say, we're not in the market of getting rid of good players. We don't want to get rid of Roquan Smith. And the Athletic kind of confirmed that today with their article talking about, you know, that the Roquan Smith wasn't being shopped to other teams, and that Ryan Poles might have called around to kind of gauge the interest and see what teams were thinking about Roquan. But then you find out from all of that, right, the teams were looking at the deal of an off-ball linebacker as well. You know, that's a lot of money. There's only 4 guys in the NFL that make that level of money, that play that same position that Roquan will be playing. And then on top of all of that, right, like, it comes with the whole Saint Omni situation. It comes with the whole Roquan representing himself, and the team seemed like they didn't want to deal with that. So not only would Roquan have been getting the money, not been getting the money that he wanted to get, but he also would have had to go through this entire situation next season again. And so I think it's a little more interesting, at least here, right? Ryan Poles at least kind of understands the situation coming into this offseason. And I look at this as a opportunity for the Bears to get a look at Roquan in this system. And so for me, I feel like the Bears handled this the right way, right? Because not to say I think Roquan Smith's going to become this terrible player, but you do want to see how he's able to adapt to a 4-3. You do want to see what he's going to be able to do on the field with the pieces around him. And then especially if you add pieces in with him, how he works with Coach Flus, how he works here, right? Because you're making a long-term commitment and you have question marks all the way around this thing outside of just, is the player on the field really good? We know Roquan Smith can play football, but I think there's a couple of things, right, that you have to look at on top of that. You also have to look at the fact of at that linebacker position, teams just aren't paying that level of money. Like I said, those off-ball linebackers, there's only 4 that make that level of money. Now, Roquan is included in those 4, but it didn't seem like the Bears were willing to allow him to set the market. So he's going to bet on himself. Roquan felt like he was disrespected. He put the trade offer in. Now he's rescinded that trade offer, betting on himself heading into this season. So for me, now I'm looking at Roquan Smith in the evaluation period and saying, okay, if everything works, then now do you allow him to set the market? But at least now, if you're the Bears, right, you have to feel like good about the situation you're in, because you feel like Roquan's going to put his best foot forward, knowing it's a contract year, knowing he's going to want to get his money from whoever he gets it from, and knowing that, okay, yeah, we've got this guy. Now we know he works with Coach Flus. Now we know he works with this defense. Now we know he works in a system we want to work with. Now the Bears already understand where he's coming from a negotiating standpoint. Maybe then they're willing to play ball a little bit more. So yeah, the deal on the table, while I do think there were some things in it that were disrespectful, the de-escalators to me are very disrespectful, but at the end of the day, right, when it comes down to it, you're trying to figure out for the long term of this team, is this guy going to be the best option for you on the long term of this team? And can I put 20+ million into him per year, allowing him to set that market for the long term of this team? Now, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Do you feel like the Bears handled this situation right? Do you feel like the Bears did a good job with dealing with the Roquan Smith situation? Or did the Chicago Bears kind of you know, you irritated a dude that's going to be really good for a long time, and now he might leave your team. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Here's the other thing for me, that when I'm looking at this, and it's the thing that I've said with the Chicago Bears all along, I love Roquan. I think Roquan's a great player. I want Roquan to be a part of this team. But the one thing that I know about the Chicago Bears long term is that we will find another linebacker. I will bet my house on it that at some point in the time that Ryan Poles is here, there will be another linebacker that comes up that all Bears fans look at and say, wow, he should play more. We're 2 games into preseason and Bears fans are already talking about, wow, Jack Shelbourne, what is it? I don't even remember his name. Sanborn. Jack Sanborn should play more. We will find another linebacker. So you also have to take that into account. How good are these guys at finding pieces, at evaluating talent, at doing things at a long-term position, right? That often doesn't end up giving you that full long-term. Linebackers account for over 15% of the injuries. Over, when I'm saying, like, it varies, right? I've seen a couple articles say 20%. I've seen a couple articles say 18%, but at a minimum, right, I give you this. Over 15% of the injuries on the defensive side of the football. So do you want to be throwing that much money at a guy that could be possibly a part of that statistic? And Roquan has dealt with some injury issues here with the Bears before. Nothing major, nothing where you were like, we're going to lose this guy for his career or anything like that. But when you have those odds stacked against you, is that a position that you want to put that much money in? Is the linebacker position becoming the running back of the defense, right? And it seems like it is, based on how the NFL is paying these guys. Again, I said 4 people in the entire NFL make over 15 million. 4 players in the entire NFL that played at off-ball linebacker make over 15 million out of everyone in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? So it's just not something that the NFL is committing money to. And so for me, I look at that situation and I'm like, okay, well then where are we going to spend that money at? The Bears are trying to probably figure out, okay, is Eddie Jackson a guy that we're going to be paying long term? Because that's a position that we'll spend money at. What do we got on this defensive line that we want to keep around and pay longer than what it's going to be here? That's a position they're willing to spend money at. We also need to help Justin Fields on the offensive side of the ball. That's a position where we're willing to spend money at. Offensive linemen, we're going to need to get those. An offensive weapon, we're going to need to get those, right? There's a lot of things that come on the list before you get to that linebacker position, not only just because how the NFL is going, but we're the Chicago flipping Bears. We know how to find linebackers. So at the end of the day, right, do I think the Chicago Bears handled this situation correctly for the long term? I do. I think Ryan Poles handled this situation great. I feel like he, while yeah, Roquan may not be pleased with how the outcome of this happened, Roquan may not be pleased with how this is all going to get done at the end of the day, I'm worried about the long term of the Bears. I hope Roquan gets 20+ million a year. I hope Roquan is that level of player. I hope that Roquan is allowed to set the market. But if it's not the best deal for the Chicago Bears moving forward, that's where Ryan Poles' job comes in. And the fact that this is not a, I'm just going to draw a line in the sand and we're going to duke it out here type of thing. This is a, okay, we have a lot of things that we have to fill on this team. Even with this season, right? I feel like the Bears are a little more built up than most people feel like. There's still a lot of stuff this team needs before it's going to be a team that we look at and say, oh yeah, they're consistently going to be in the playoffs. So I look at this Bears team and I say, okay, look, we've got all these holes going into next season. We've got all this money going into next season. We've got all these draft picks going into next season. What are the likelihoods that we're able to find another linebacker in the draft? What are the likelihoods that we're able to sign another linebacker? What are the likelihoods that we can get some guys in here that can play at a really high level that don't play at that price tag? And when you look at all those likelihoods, they're a lot higher than Roquan Smith living up to a $20+ million contract. Not to say he shouldn't get it, but when I'm weighing things out, right, I understand the Bears need a lot more than just one off-ball linebacker. So for me, I think that Ryan Poles handled this thing expertly. The only thing that I have, and I've said this the entire time, the only thing to me that is completely disrespectful is the fact that you put the de-escalators in his contract, because no other player in the NFL has it, and he's one of the best. No other player in the NFL has de-escalators, and he's one of the best. So for me, that part on Ryan Poles, did I say pace? Y'all know I'd be mixing it up. On Ryan Poles' part, to me, that is disrespectful. And so outside of that, I think that the Bears handle this situation really, really well. But I want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. We got 2 more weeks till Bears football is here. Burn. Peace.